Grandma, this is for you. In 1969, an 18-year-old woman with 7 years of work experience moved away from home to work in a big city for an insurance company. As the middle child of 8 children, she learned early on to take care of herself and others. She understood that the universe didn't revolve around her. Rather, she shared her life with those around her. One such man she shared her life with was a commercial sailor who became her husband of 52 years. After meeting at a bar through a mutual connection with her brothers, their relationship went deeper. 8 months in, he proposed to her, and less than a year later, they were married. He joined the United States Navy, and for the next 10 years, she supported him as a spouse and as a mother for their 2 children. His time of service sent them to Illinois, Georgia, Hawaii, and back to their home grounds of Wisconsin. As time passed, she saw challenges arise and people change, especially in her family. She found division and disconnect between herself and her husband. The constant moving and the absence of their father also affected her children. While he was away, she worked during the day to keep the heat on at night for her children when they came home from school. She didn't stop to feel sorry for herself. She chose to keep moving forward to help them all move forward. In time, she was able to convince her husband to return home. In the meantime, she continued working. While the unlove between her and her husband dissipated, she remained steadfast and faithful. She and her husband carried many occupations, but they stayed together and kept working. Over the next 2 decades, he worked for an electric company, performed contracting office work for a shipyard, and owned his own restaurant. She worked at a home video store, a laundromat, a motel as a receptionist, and multiple restaurants, which included a managerial role at her husband's establishment. All the while, she remained heavily involved wherever her family was. She served communion at the church they went to. She taught a religion class for public school students. She participated in many fundraisers and even went to her children's school to help students behind in their studies. In the midst of her busy schedule, she dedicated herself to raise her children well. She saw life blossom and fade, harmonize and clash, and begin and end. Her children became adults, and she became a grandma. She was in the room when my brother and myself were born. She sat bedside when her father and mother both passed away. She saw her daughter have a successful marriage, and her son deal with divorce and interfamily conflict. During my life, I didn't just get to know her as a grandma, but also as a mother figure. By the age of 4, my parents were divorced. By the age of 10, my mother took a leave of absence from my life. While my mother was gone and my dad was working, she would frequently invite us to her house. She would look after my brother and I while everyone else was busy. She offered advice and a helping hand that was unlike anyone else I knew. She helped me find hope and faith when I found myself struggling. She taught me no one's perfect, including herself, and that's okay. If it weren't for her, I don't know who I would be today. 2020 hit, and the tides came crashing in. Her husband's physical and mental health started to deteriorate, slow at first, but they devolved exponentially. Over a couple years, forgetfulness turned into memory loss and personality changes which highlighted his worst characteristics. A 70-year-old 5'0" woman was left taking care of a 5'10", 280-pound man during a pandemic. She had to pick up the load for both of them, metaphorically by situating their finances and appointments, and physically when he fell and couldn't get up. During this time, I came to understand how truly strong she is. In fact, When I asked around, it became known to me that no one has ever seen her shed a tear to anything. I asked her what valuable life lessons she's learned over the years. In response, she told me a story. When she lived in Hawaii, she found herself one day driving down the highway with her 2 children. In the middle of this car ride, she realized she forgot her purse. While she was momentarily frustrated, she looked on ahead and witnessed a car accident. With her 2 kids in the back seat, she understood that the vehicle up ahead could have been hers. At that moment, she had an epiphany. As she told me, "We're always protected by our spirit. Never will I get mad at something inconvenient. Things are put in our way to protect us or teach us something. What would have been seen as hardships in the eyes of others were merely experiences to her." She always had faith that things would work out in the end, and in the end, they did. When things looked most bleak, those who she cared for came to her aid. Children, grandchildren, friends, neighbors, and siblings. They came to help look after her and care for her and her husband. They came when her husband passed away. They came when she needed to close up her home and move elsewhere. The lives of those she poured into came to support her in her time of need. Nowadays, she lives with her daughter at their home in the woods in Alabama. She is finally able to sit back and watch the flowers bloom, listen to the birds chirp, and simply relax. And to this day, she's still the same person she's always been. Considerate, generous, resolute, and loving. One day, I came to remember seeing numerous different decorations of butterflies around her home. What was in the background most of my life came to the center picture. Even her social media profile picture for a time was of a monarch butterfly. Curious, I called and asked her, "Hey Grandma, could you tell me why you like butterflies so much?" She told me, "Oh, well, a butterfly starts out as a caterpillar on the ground. It knows it won't live as a caterpillar. It has to spin a cocoon around itself and encapsulate itself." How does it even live? At some point, it breaks out of its cocoon. It no longer walks on the ground. It turns into a beautiful creature with wings and flies. People can be like that too, no matter the circumstances. Start with a tough, hard life. They can be like that butterfly and soar with a completely different, beautiful life. After writing this story, I have truly come to understand why you like butterflies so much. Your life, your story, is quite similar to the story of a butterfly. To a butterfly, their metamorphosis, transformation, and way of life is a normal occurrence. To an outsider, it's an amazing and fascinating phenomenon. While a butterfly story may be one of millions, it resonates with those who get to experience it. While it may never be published, the widespread effect of the butterfly's interactions leave a lasting impact. The butterfly may never get to see this for themselves, but this doesn't concern them. They fly because they understand that's what they're made to do. They promote change by the way they live, and they don't give it second thought. What may seem like a small change to someone can lead to a large-scale change in the future. How much can a simple act of generosity impact someone else? How could the actions of one person support an entire community? How many can someone help learn to fly? These are questions we can ask about ourselves and those we travel with on this journey of life. These stories may be told one day, or maybe they'll simply remain as unknown butterfly effects.